So to continue on, going back to our if statement, if the cookie had already existed, then all we do here is reset our cookie with the exact same information, with the exception of our expiry date. So what we get here is all the system does is update our existing cookie with a new expiry date to be 6 hours from the time that you ran this function. So now, when we invoke this create session function, what will happen is it'll set a cookie, and the value of the cookie will be readily available for use as the key in your database. Because remember, we set that value into our cookie variable. So we run create session, and that'll create our cookie, or update our cookie if one already exists. The next function loads existing session information. You can see that it takes the cookie value as an argument. The global C statement here makes my database reference available within the function. We have our database connection started up here. So first thing we do is check to see if there's an existing record with this session ID or with this cookie ID. If there's no session available, which we do a check here, we try and load it into an array, check the array session ID. If it's not equal to our cookie ID that we've passed in, then it's a safe assumption that that session does not exist. So if there is no session, then we're going to create it. We're just going to insert into our database our session ID, the time it was started, and our last access, which is going to be in this case the exact same time that it was started. Now if it does exist, then all we want to do is update that session variable with our last access to be the most recent one, and we add our where session ID equals cookie ID to make sure that we're accessing the exact same row that identifies this customer. Finally, we load the session information into an array called session vars, and we're going to return that array of information out of this function. We run this function so that all of our session information is now going to be in an array called session info, which I can access outside of this function. So let's run this, and there we go. You can see we've got our session information all printed out. Got our session ID, which if we go and we look up here is our new cookie that we manually set. You see that this number 112351545911318 is the exact same as the key in our database, which is the reference between the two of them. We have our started date and we have our last access date. Now if I refresh the page here, you're going to notice that the last access date, the time on it, is going to change because we're not setting a new session, we're just updating an existing session. So you can see we've got 10:37:39, refresh, 10:38:31, which is the only bit of information that's changed. You can also see that there's a lot more information that's not yet filled out in this session. In order to save this information, all I need to do is a simple MySQL query to update the record with the information, and my where clause being where session ID equals, instead of cookie ID outside, I'd use cookie real world PHP, just like that. So this becomes my where clause when I'm updating my session row. So there you go. That's managing sessions, setting your own cookie, and using MySQL to save the information. Again, I find this method gives you more control over the data and management of it, and I recommend using this method over PHP session management functions.